Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com. In this video, we're looking at a retro design from Timex with the Timex Q Reissue 1978. So in this video and on this channel, we cover watches available for purchase on our website, TeddyBaldassarre.com, as a full authorized dealer. So in this video, deep dive into this timepiece, final points of consideration at the end, but also throughout the video, if you have further questions, check out the link in the description to the product page where you can learn more, purchase the watch, and book a time with one of our dedicated watch specialists as well. But guys, let's jump into the video, take a closer look at this watch. Now, over the past few years, Timex has actively been working on this vintage reissue game, or at least this part of their catalog. You could see this in the Marlin, the other Timex Q models, or the M79, just to name a few examples here. But the commonality across all of those models was sometimes the use of mechanical calibers, or at least a lot of attractive design language that could be pulled from their archive. Today, we're going to look at a classic vintage example of incorporating retro style in a modern design with a very attainable price tag with the Timex Q Reissue 1978. Now, looking at this watch on the wrist and just talking about the case dimensions, we have 37.3 millimeters with the diameter, thickness at 12.6 millimeters, with a good portion of that coming from the domed acrylic crystal, and a lug-to-lug dimension of 42.8 millimeters. In totality, I would say it wears relatively true to its size, if not a bit smaller, wearing closer to that of a 36.5 to 37 millimeter case. You are getting some broader elements with the case style, with kind of that broad lug design that's going to shoot out with a polished surface finish and an extended crown on the 3 o'clock side. Case finish is rather consistent throughout. You are getting a pretty nice lined bevel along the outside edge of the lugs in the case, which looks way more premium than the $180 price tag. All of the surfaces are going to be polished on the interior side. The case back is the only area where you're going to see a different surface finish with more of a brush styling. At that 3 o'clock position, we have an appropriately sized crown for the case size. It's easy to engage and operates in typical fashion. At the first pulled out point, you then can adjust the day and the date. And at the farthest extended point, you then can adjust the time while stopping the second hand in the process. Installed between these stocky lugs is a simple 20 millimeter genuine leather strap in black. It's soft but has a bit of a synthetic feel to the topside surface and is otherwise unremarkable. It comes with a very basic double-sided pin buckle at 16 millimeters at that strap end. At the end of the day, the strap isn't going to blow you away by any means, but given that this is coming with a watch at a price range of around $160, there are legitimate straps that are going to be more expensive than this watch. So now let's talk about the dial, and we can see that through the domed acrylic crystal, which is going to give this watch that vintage hue. To follow suit, the dial is also going to have heavy influence in its design from vintage elements. Looking closely at the dial, we see a fine vertical brush texture that gives us some lighter and darker areas as it plays with the light. I wouldn't go so far to say as it's going to have a linen dial, because it's a little bit different than that, specifically if we're comparing this to like a Rolex linen dial. However, there is randomness to the way that the vertical striations are applied to the surface in the same way you get random patterns within a linen dial. Applied to the dial are stylized stick markers that have a satin finish to them, as well as a blackened edge, contrasting from the dial. If you look closely at the inward-facing edge of each marker, you'll see that they've been machined horizontally, cutting away a small piece of material which provides a small reflective surface that will glisten when it catches the light correctly. The markers are set within a simple minute track along the perimeter of the dial. Further inside that dial, we have just a few other elements to note. First, we have the dial text, which has been limited to the Q Timex logo placed just underneath the 12 o'clock marker, and the word quartz, which is printed between the hands and the 6 o'clock marker. The day-date window is positioned at the 3 o'clock, outlined in a thin black border, and the day and date wheels are both white with contrasted black print, except for the Sunday, which is in red. The hour and minute hands are polished steel with a small black section that would typically be used for luminous material, but since this model doesn't contain any lume, Timex has stylized this hand to enhance legibility and contrast from the dial below. Overall, the dial carries some of the strongest vintage inspiration of any models from Timex, and that is saying something, but this is definitely the kind of dial that is going to pair well with different strap combinations and have versatility in a variety of situations. Turning the watch over to reveal the solid case back and its separate battery hatch that allows for quick and easy battery replacements without needing to remove the entire case back. 4 screws secure the case back down and aid in water resistance capabilities of 50 meters. Inside this watch, though, is a very basic quartz movement that Timex is a bit nondescript about what type of movement is inside here. Typically, when they use a Miyota or a Seiko, they're a little bit more apt to go ahead and present that in the specification information. So my guess here there's probably going to be a China source quartz movement on the inside. In terms of general accuracy though, the stated accuracy here is within 30 seconds per month. So despite the low cost as well as the basic bare bones movement that this is, it's still going to offer a lot of peace of mind in that regard. And like the old Timex sayings go, takes a licking, but keeps on ticking. When it comes to battery replacement and changing it out with maintenance, 1.5 to 2.5 years seems to be the standard range in which that's going to need to take place. All right, so now to unpack looking at this Timex Q 1978 reissue. In terms of the design, I think they absolutely knocked this out of the park. The case finish is also a bit more premium compared to some of their entry-level models. I think the challenge for this one is just where it's positioned within just watches in general, but mostly where Timex is going to have their offering available. For around $170, $160 for this watch, and you put this up against something like their Marlins and other pieces that are going to house a mechanical movement, there is not much more money that you need to spend to get into those watches. Now, in terms of the design here, I think this is incredibly tasteful. I think they did a wonderful job with this. The wearing dimensions are great. And again, I think this case, in terms of some of the footage, I hope it will be able to be shown off in the appropriate way, is actually quite good for a watch in this price category. I think they did a nice job here. But I think at the end of the day, you have to look at this watch for what it is, an entry-level quartz watch that is going to really lean into that vintage styling, and I think they did a pretty solid job with that, all things considered. Is it enough to be the definitive choice in this price range? I don't think so, but still a nice new addition to Timex's growing offering. All right, guys, well, thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That really does help out the channel. Also, if you're in the market for this watch and you like what you saw here today, definitely check it out. It's available on TeddyBaldassarre.com. Full authorized dealer of all the brands that we carry, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support. We also offer price match. So if you see one of our products for cheaper at another authorized dealer, fill out the form and we'll get in touch with you. Also, all of our products come with a full factory warranty, so you're completely covered if something goes wrong. You don't have that cost on your head. And finally, 9 out of every $10 that we generate goes right back into the content we're creating here, as well as on our main channel, helping to foster up a new generation of watch enthusiasts in the process. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.